Welcome to an all-new episode of Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. I am your sidekick, Dylan Waugh. You can find me on Twitter at _Dylan Waugh. Ken is on Twitter at Ken_Campbell27. You can find Ken's writing at kencampbell.substack.com. Highly recommend you check that out. And stick around because today we're going to talk about a little bit of news, and then we've got an interview with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Connor Bedard. Ken, how you doing today?
Excellent.
Yeah?
Most excellent.
Most excellent. A most glorious day
Yes.
to be interviewing one of the potentially best... What?
Oh, I remember when
Of all time?
I remember when Connor McDavid was in his draft year.
Yeah.
And I think it was Chuck Fletcher I was talking to about. And he says, you talk about kids before they play in the NHL, and it's like, yeah, he's going to be a great player. He's going to be a star. He could be a superstar. I mean, Connor McDavid, he said that, now people are saying like, this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer before his career even began.
Yeah.
And this young man has that feel to him. And the reason why I say that is because, and we'll get into it when I speak to him. Every step of the way, the hype surrounding this young man has been off the charts.
Yeah.
And he's not only equaled the hype, he's over-delivered, in my opinion, on the hype. He over-delivered last year with the Regina Pats. He over-delivered at the U18s. He over-delivered at the World Juniors. He started out as, their 13th forward, and then game 2, he's on their 4th line, and he scores 4 goals. I said before the tournament, I said right out, flat out on Twitter, this guy's going to be in their top 6 by the time this tournament's finished. Because we always know that it never ends the way it starts, right?
Yeah.
Never ends the way it starts. Lots of times these guys, they end up as the 13th forward, and then they end up playing really, really important roles. And I saw that coming for Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Because he's got this uncanny ability to be able to just play up to whatever the level is, and I don't see any evidence that he's not going to do that in the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly, junior success is not the only thing that dictates future success, but you'd rather see it. And I do remember on your Substack writing, kencampbell.substack.com. You said exactly that. You wrote a long article about the World Juniors Canadian roster.
Yeah.
And you specifically highlighted Bedard, and you said he's not gonna stay here. And for me, I leave it to smarter minds than myself to figure out, especially when it comes to scouting and younger players and stuff like that. But boy, you weren't wrong.
Yeah, well, I don't hear that very often. Boy, you weren't wrong. Wow. Can you say that again?
Well, I had to do it with a double negative, or else, I just kind of I couldn't make it work with just by saying you were right. Ugh,
okay,
just feels bad in my mouth.
I'm going to say something else here.
Please.
And people are going to think I'm crazy, but
if they don't already.
Yeah. Crazier.
Yeah.
I would have Connor Bedard on the 2022 Canadian Olympic team.
I don't think that's crazy at all.
I'd pick him. I'd pick him. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. And both of them tie into what I was just talking about. Number one, nothing he's done so far has shown that he can't elevate his game to meet the level of play that he's playing in. I mean, and the Olympics is a big step up even without the NHLers.
Right.
You're talking about guys who are veterans in Europe, have played in the NHL, have had long, successful careers like, Eric Stahl, Devin Dubnyk, all these guys have had long careers, Pavel Datsyuk, guys like that. So it would be a huge step up for him, but he's never, ever yet demonstrated to me or anyone else that he cannot raise the level of his play to the competition that he's in. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second one is, and the second one I think is just as important. In 2026, Connor Bedard will be 20 years old. But he will be in the middle of his third NHL season because he's going to get drafted in 23. So he's got 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26.
Yeah.
He'll be in the middle of his third season. Again, there's nothing to suggest to me that by that point in his NHL career, he will not be at the level of playing with the best players in the world, period. Right? So how, if you're Hockey Canada, why would you not want to get him, ease him into that this time around? And then in 2020, you don't have to worry about taking a kid who's not experienced and might not be able to handle it. Because he's already been through it, right?
Yeah.
And so, so like when Steven Stamkos in 2010, he was too young, but he was putting together a 50-goal season.
Yeah.
Or was it 2014? I can't remember which one. But no, it was 2010 because in 2014 he broke his leg.
Yeah.
So 2010, Steven Stamkos should have been on the Olympic team.
Right.
He was in the midst of a 50-goal season that year, but they just deemed that he was too young. They wouldn't have to worry about that with Connor Bedard in 2026. They probably won't have to anyways.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be great if you could have that guy and it'd be funny because Connor Bedard would be playing in the Olympics before Connor McDavid, which is weird. And he'd be able to tell Connor McDavid, well, here's, I'll show you the ropes kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to me, it's outlandish and everything that I've been hearing and understand, he's not on the radar. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. But I wonder, if, let's say, if the WHL has to shut down,
right?
Which it probably won't. But what if it did?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you do that? Like take him as the extra forward, let him play his way up into the lineup, or not. Maybe he stays your 13th guy or your 14th guy, and he just sort of looks and listens and learns and practices with these guys.
Yeah.
But again, to me, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, if he went to the Olympics, he wouldn't be able to play because nothing he's done to this point has suggested that he wouldn't be able to.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents on that.
I think if he went to the Olympics now, what would make it interesting is seeing him when he's on par with all of the other players at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Before he's goes to the Olympics in 4 years.
Yeah.
And he's way better than everybody else. Somebody will be able to say, like I've got a cousin that was a big golfer in Northern Ireland, and my family's from Northern Ireland.
Okay.
And he played in a tournament with Rory McIlroy.
Right.
And it was close. McIlroy was 10, but it was close.
Yeah.
So, but he'll always be able to hang his hat on the fact that he played in a tournament with Rory McIlroy. So it'll be interesting, to see these guys. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I stripped Connor Bedard and made him look stupid on the ice. It was 16 at the Olympics, but
Yeah.
Just forget
exactly.
that part.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's what I got when I was saying that there were too many teams in the World Juniors.
Yeah,
well, all those Austrian kids will be able to say tell their grandchildren that I played against Connor Bedard once.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I guess that's why we should allow 10 teams in it, but whatever.
But if you don't grow the game from grassroots in Austria, for example, then they don't know who you're going to be talking about. If you say you scored with,
Yeah, but don't tell me that you're gonna.
No, I'm not suggesting that that's the growth from grassroots, but I'm just saying that if you don't already have that grassroots growth,
right,
then you're saying gibberish.
Right.
I can go to somebody and say I played on the ice with, so and so ex-NHLer, and if they've never watched hockey, they don't care.
Right.
Doesn't matter to them.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So let's talk a little bit about the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah. Little trouble in paradise, if you will.
Yeah.
You wrote about Dave Tippett and, of course, the rumors of Dave Tippett's
demise,
his imminent demise. Rumors of his imminent demise. Are they much exaggerated?
I think they are at this point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say first of all that I know Ken Holland. I've talked to him many times.
You go to the Ken's meeting together.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I think I know a little bit about how he thinks. And Ken Holland is not at a point, anywhere near a point right now where he would consider, in my opinion. They lose 6 more in a row. He may have no choice. He's got an owner too.
Yeah.
Right. And the owner might just come down and say, it's over.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing Tyler Benson play on the 4th line. I want a coach who gives him a chance on the 2nd line.
Right.
So let's put it this way. And I wrote this yesterday. Ken Holland is not going to fire Dave Tippett in season unless he has absolutely no option or alternative but to do so.
Yeah.
He's never fired a coach in season ever.
Yeah. And he's been in the league for about 1,000 years.
Yeah. And he rarely fires coaches, period. Yeah. But he has never done it in season. I think the Mike Babcock thing, I think it's convenient.
Yeah.
That people, that they have a past together and that. Yeah. I think people are tempted to look at what Vancouver's done, to a lesser degree what Philadelphia's done under Mike Yeo, and to an even lesser degree what Chicago's done under Derek King, which I think has been pretty amazing. I think there's that temptation to think that you're going to get that bump, Yeah. And I think the reality that we have to deal with here too is in a season like this, I don't think points mean anything in the standings. I think you got to look at points percentage.
Yeah,
you have to judge the standings by points percentage. And we're going to talk about Colorado later. Colorado is the best team in the Western Conference.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
By points percentage, and they are the best team in the Western Conference. In terms of points percentage, right now, as we speak, the Oilers are playing in a few hours against Toronto. They're out of the playoffs. Points percentage, they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's shocking. On account of, they were in first place in the Western Conference a month ago, 6 weeks ago, a month ago. I just want to make sure that I'm not talking out my rear end here. Yeah, so they've got the last one at 576, and Winnipeg's behind them at 578. So technically, the Edmonton Oilers, as we sit here right now, are not a playoff team.
The trouble with when you as a fan base think, let's emulate what Vancouver did as the prime example, fire the coach and then be the best team in the universe, is that there's only one Bruce Boudreau in the league. And Bruce Boudreau has that history of success in terms of doing that. Yeah. And so it's just like when in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, Montreal playing Tampa Bay and 2 $10 million goalies battling each other. And the announcer said something to the effect of, well, it shows that you might need a $10 million goalie to win. The trouble is that doesn't mean just go and sign a goalie for $10 million. Yeah. You're talking about Price and Vasilevsky.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have Vasilevsky, yes, sign him to a $10 million long-term deal.
Right. Exactly.
Corey Price, maybe not.
Well, he's a playoff performer, but yes, he has underperformed that deal more than he has overperformed it.
Yeah. Even though he took him to the final last year, I would agree wholeheartedly with that statement.
But the bottom line is that when he signed that deal, he was the best goalie in the NHL. It wasn't close. And when Vasilevsky signed his deal, he was the best goalie in the NHL. It wasn't close.
And it's not close, yeah.
And, so can you take Bobrovsky, who's a top 3 or top 4, sign them to $10 million and expect them to be your $10 million goalie? He's playing exceptionally well this year. Mm-hmm. But, you can't just sign anybody, right? Ask Ottawa.
Yeah. It turns out if you trade for Matt Murray and sign him to a long-term deal, he doesn't get any better. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So what moves do you think that Ken Holland will do, if any, to potentially try to right the ship here?
Well, I think he's got to increase his depth at center. Like right now, their top 2 centers are Connor McDavid and Derek Ryan. And they're both out, as far as I know, they're both out tonight.
Yeah.
So that's a big blow at center.
Yeah.
They need some centermen. He swung and missed big time on Kyle Turris this summer.
Yeah.
Big swing and a miss there.
It wasn't a lot of risk though, but it was.
But yeah. He thought he had Jacob Markstrom. He thought he had him.
I tend to agree with that.
No, it's true. He did.
Oh, okay.
He did. He thought he had Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, Markstrom took the Calgary deal.
Yeah.
He was in on Kemper.
Yeah.
And I don't know how close they got, but they were close enough. Koskinen. Now we're looking at a situation where there's got to be some repairs being done to that relationship.
Yeah.
And the problem for the Edmonton Oilers is they literally, and I mean this literally, because a lot of times people say literally and they actually mean figuratively. But in this case, I'm saying literally, they literally cannot count on Mike Smith to be healthy from game to game.
Right.
Like he's playing tonight.
Yeah. By
all accounts.
Yeah.
But who knows tomorrow? Is he going to wake up and have a broken body?
Yeah.
They've got to shore up their goaltending.
Yeah.
And so what do? Do you go out and get Marc-Andre Fleury and take on that cap hit for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
And lose him for nothing at the end and have to give up assets to get him?
Yeah.
Maybe you do.
I think what's underappreciated for goaltenders, especially goalies that are playing injured, like Mike Smith appears to be, is that goaltending is a max output position. Whereas playing, you want your max output to last for about, say, 20 seconds for a shift, right? Or maybe 5 seconds of a larger max output. But the point is that it's spread out over, between 5 and 20 seconds, let's say, right? As a goaltender, your max output is 1/2 of a second, 1/4 of a second. So if something's off, there's no way to make that thing be off and kind of make it spread over the 20 seconds. And you lose 1% over 20 seconds. You lose like 30% over that 1/2 a second that you had to be there. And so, I don't see how Mike Smith picks up this season, and it's not even a slight against Mike Smith.
And I just wonder if you don't just go, okay, Stuart Skinner.
Yeah.
Here's the ball. Take it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It may be disastrous, but it might not.
Why not do it now before the trade deadline?
And then you see what you've got.
Yeah,
you see what you've got.
Yeah.
Koskinen at $2 million playing 25 games a year would be perfect. Koskinen at 4 and change and playing all the games is suboptimal. Suboptimal.
Yes. An active detriment, if you will. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the Colorado Avalanche. Is that not the most exciting hockey team to watch in the NHL right now? Like you mentioned it for Cale Makar on our first episode. And I mean, the game the other night was just Cale Makar again in overtime, and Alex Newhook midway through the game putting an absolute beauty, just walking in on everybody and scoring a beautiful goal.
Yeah, they're must viewing. The only problem is you never get to see them because they never play. I mean, it's like, are they playing tonight, or do they have 15 guys in COVID protocol, or what's going on? But they're must viewing. I like watching Winnipeg a lot, and I think part of it is because Dennis Bayak is their play-by-play guy, and I think he's brilliant. Yeah, I think he's brilliant. But Colorado is must viewing right now. Yeah. I just don't. I don't know. You watch and you go, well, yeah, but they had to get to overtime to beat the Chicago Blackhawks 5-4.
Not ideal,
right? Was it 5-4 or 4-3?
I believe it was 5-4.
Yeah, that's again suboptimal. Let's see. I'm just going to check.
Are we going to call the name of the podcast Suboptimal? No, we can't do that because we're about to interview Connor Bedard.
Well, and also it might send the wrong message.
Yes, fair enough.
That we indeed are suboptimal, which we may very well be.
Yes.
But I don't want to tell people that. No, it was 4-3.
We'll let
4-3.
them. We don't want to deprive them of that period of discovery, that wonderful route of discovery to discovering that we're suboptimal.
Yeah.
We want them to come
let
to
them
that.
Figure it out themselves
after 30 or 40 episodes or so. Yeah, these guys are pretty suboptimal.
Let's get a sponsor first. Yeah. So it was 4-3 actually, but it's I mean. Can they sustain this? Well, when you're outscoring everybody, the object of the game is still to score more goals than the other team.
No, it's Corsi.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But their power play is excellent. Their penalty killing is not great. Their goaltending is okay. And their defensive play as a group has a bit to be desired.
True.
So yeah, like I look at what does Colorado need? I mean, man, you look at those four lines and what do you got? You got down the middle, you got McKinnon, Kadri, Jost, and Newhook.
Kadri was scoring at a pace greater in terms of goals per 60 minutes of his play than Connor McDavid this year.
Keep riding that horse as long as you can this year.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
Well, but
he looked good in Toronto.
Yeah, he looked good in Toronto, and he did. But Nazem Kadri has to stay in the game.
Yeah, true.
He's got to be able to be there to make that contribution in the playoffs. To me, I don't see much in the way of cracks down their lineup at all.
Yeah.
Darren Helm is their fourth line right winger. He won a Stanley Cup with Detroit 2008, went to the final 2009, but he's Darren Helm and he's your fourth line right winger.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of guys. Devin Taves has been to a conference final.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of guys who can really tell you what it's like, and that really have been there. So, I'm thinking maybe a veteran on the blue line or up front. And I think you want to bolster your goaltending. I don't know.
Have to bolster your goaltending.
And I don't know if you have to go out and get Marc-Andre Fleury, but maybe you get Craig Anderson.
Completely disagree. You gotta get the best goaltender. I think that it's going back to what I was saying about the Stanley Cup Finals. Like the teams that have won Stanley Cups have done it, and with the one exception of Jordan Binnington, who's this weird folk hero, but
he was lights out.
Statistically, he was below league average.
Yeah,
in terms of his Stanley Cup.
Well,
run.
I would argue too. Antti Niemi won a Stanley Cup in 2010.
Yeah. Okay. So exception that proves the rule. But like, if you look at the goalies that won, I mean, it's so underappreciated how important Vasilevsky was to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The only person that seems to appreciate it is Kucherov.
Yeah. That's the number one bullshit.
Yeah. But my point is, I think that if you are serious about a Stanley Cup, like why screw around? Like why screw around at this point? Why get second best? Find a way to get anybody.
Okay, anybody. Nobody's making trades. There have been very few.
There have been very
hockey
few
trades in the NHL this year. What do we got? We got Jack Eichel, of course. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Dylan Gambrell, Curtis Gabriel got traded.
Yeah.
There have been a few player for player trades this year, but nobody's making trades. Like, what are you going to do? Like, okay, so do you go out and give up whatever it's going to take to get Marc-Andre Fleury at the trade deadline? Is that what you do?
I would.
Okay.
I would. Like what is it going to take? It's going to be obviously some salary out.
Yep.
And it's starting with a first. So you got salary out in a first.
Well, or you don't take on all the salary and then you give them more in terms of assets, right?
Right.
So I'm looking at Colorado and what their situation is with draft picks. because they only had 4 draft picks last year. See, they already don't have a first and second. They got 1 pick in the first 4 rounds. They got 1 pick in the first 4 rounds. Maybe they don't have what it takes.
Yeah, maybe they don't have what it takes.
Okay, so but what do they have? What do they have in terms of, do they have a good young guy? Like, are you going to trade Bowen Byram? Are you going to, what are you going to do? Are you going to trade Newhook? Are you going to go that route?
A goalie is the positional equivalent, and I'm outing myself here, of a jock strap. Okay? It's this insignificant, tiny little piece of equipment, but boy, nothing can take you out of the game as fast as not having had a good jock strap on.
It'll be interesting to see as the trade deadline approaches, what the market will be, assuming Marc-Andre Fleury agrees to move. It'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see.
If it was to Colorado,
Well, no, but it's going to be dependent on supply and demand. This is going to be a supply and demand thing. If only 1 or 2 teams wants Marc-Andre Fleury, the demand goes down.
I would go for Jake Allen too if I was Colorado.
But then what does Montreal do?
Continue to tank for Shane Wright?
Yeah.
What else do they do?
Yeah.
All right. Anything more to say on the Avalanche?
They're really, really good.
They're a lot of fun. Okay, so final question on the Avalanche. I'm gonna channel my inner Tortorella. Do you think that their style of play, as you mentioned about them and their ridiculous scores, do you think that's sustainable in the playoffs?
It hasn't been.
Yeah.
It hasn't been the last couple of years.
True.
Probably not, but I think they've got the personnel that can adapt to, I think they've been through it a couple of times.
Yeah.
See, I'm a big one for every team that ends up being great gets that just kick to the pills with a steel-toed boot.
Yeah.
They always do.
Yeah.
It happened to Tampa. It happened
to the 1980 Oilers.
It happened to the 1980 Oilers.
Or 79 or 80?
No, it happened. Well, it was the 84 Oilers.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay. Either way, it happened to the Gretzky era.
Well, it also happened to the dynasty before that with the Islanders. They lost to the Leafs.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it happened to Tampa. They lost to Columbus. For whatever reason, in order to be that team that realizes what you have to do, you got to have that gut punch. Yeah. And I think they've been gut punched enough times now that maybe they can figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's sustainable.
Awesome. Well, let's get set up for this interview.
All right. Connor Bedard coming up. All right, everyone. As promised, here with Connor Bedard on Wednesday, January 5th, and bit of a bittersweet day, I assume, for you and for probably a lot of hockey fans as well. You weren't supposed to be sitting in your apartment in Regina today. You were supposed to be in Edmonton preparing for what you hoped was a gold medal game, and I can't imagine the disappointment that you felt. Can you really sort of take me through how disappointing it was and how you've been able to kind of put it all into perspective since then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough for our, whole group, and when we get to the tournament, January 5th is kind of what we circle on our calendar, and obviously Hockey Canada, the goal is always to win a gold medal. So it's definitely kind of hard today waking up and imagining getting ready for that game, but I think trying not to focus on it, but it was definitely pretty hard for our group not to have that chance.
Well, and the IHF and Hockey Canada has given every indication that they want to get this thing done. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but I think they're going to give it their best shot. The last time you played a tournament in the late spring worked out pretty well for you. I assume that you're looking towards June and thinking that you might be able to get back and finish this thing off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think our whole team would obviously want the chance, like I said, kind of compete for that gold medal. And, I think for a lot of guys, it's kind of the one opportunity. And, for that kind of to be taken away is pretty difficult. And, I think so if they're able to get it going in June, that would be pretty cool. Obviously just, wear the Maple Leaf again. It's always, a pretty special feeling. So if they're going to be able to get it go, that'd be awesome.
Right. Everything's so uncertain right now, Connor, as you know. I mean, you're sitting in quarantine because the Pats are having to take a few days off here, and hopefully you'll be able to play. I think it's Friday night. You're playing in Saskatoon, right? Yeah. So hopefully you'll be able to get that game in. But, I mean, you're sitting there doing nothing right now. I can't imagine that this break could have come at a worse time for you. Having scored 4 goals on the weekend with the Pats and then coming off the World Juniors. How do you keep your mind focused, and how do you sort of stay engaged, so that when you do start playing again, you'll be able to be the best you can be?
Yeah, I think, you kind of just got to do as much as you can in your house, kind of just, mini workouts or stuff. We kind of do get some stuff, from our trainer as a team, but you kind of just got to, try to stay active and try to move around as much as you can. But, obviously it's more difficult in a quarantine, but, I think our whole team's just kind of trying to be as active as possible.
Right. Now you're living in a place in Regina, and I know that the Pats suggested that, your mom come and live with you this year to help you with the transition of, living on your own and that sort of thing. I'm wondering how that's working out, Connor, because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, all right, that's great. My mom's around. On the other hand, it's like, my mom's always around. I know you have a great relationship with your parents, with your mom. How has that worked out for you? Has it been a good way for you to transition?
Yeah, I mean, I would have been happy, either way, Billet or obviously my mom coming, but it's a sense of normalcy, obviously, in this year that's pretty crazy for everyone. So it's been good. I think just kind of like I said, having that feeling of a normal year and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely been kind of good to have her around.
Yeah. And I mean, your mom, Melanie, I mean, I've talked to her in the past, and she's not a real sort of alpha hockey person. She's more concerned with, the nutrition side of things for you and making sure that you're getting enough sleep and doing all the things that make you the best. But, I mean, it's not like she's telling you, that, your zone entries need to be improved. Right. So it is good to have that support and not to have sort of that overbearing support, I guess, too. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's kind of, she doesn't really talk to me about hockey too much.
Yeah.
She's kind of just, there and she obviously wants me to do well and that sort of thing. But like you said, with the nutrition and that sort of thing, she's helped me a lot with off ice stuff. And then, just kind of, the relationship, you have with your mom, you're obviously very close and it's just, good to have that comfort around.
That's great. That's great. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, about going back to the World Juniors. It was funny because we were joking with you before. When you logged into this Zoom call, you logged in as Mason McTavish, and you'd said that he needed your laptop for something, and you couldn't figure out how to turn it make it go back the other way, which you did figure out, to your credit. Tell me a little bit about the relationship between the two of you, because here's a guy who's 18. He looks like he's 25, and, being pals with a guy who's 16 and looks like he's 14. How does the dynamics of that relationship work? And why are you guys, how have you developed such a close relationship?
Yeah, I mean, our first kind of time being together was obviously U18s, and we were quarantined for 4 days together in a room, I think. So, you kind of just get closer there. And then, obviously we were there for 3 weeks. So we just got really close. And then, obviously we were together again in World Juniors. So just kind of always being together when we've only really actually been together 2 times, but we've always been with each other. So, you just kind of grow that relationship. And like you said, I did not believe he was 18. First time I saw him, or 17, I guess. He looks like a 40-year-old man. So it's cool to kind of grow that relationship and, obviously seeing what he's been able to do in his career, obviously playing in the NHL and stuff. So it's definitely fun. He's definitely a very fun guy to be around.
Well, and I know on ice stuff, hockey stuff, obviously he would probably be in a position to be able to mentor you. But like, is he the adult in the relationship with the two of you as well? Like, is he the one that's always nagging you to clean up and that sort of thing? Or I mean, I'm just wondering how you guys exist off the ice.
I don't know if it's adult. I'd say it's probably messier than I am. But
Okay.
I think we kind of just have fun. Maybe, I think there's a tweet about Wright saying that it was kind of big brother, little brother. And, that could be it. I kind of bug him and then he'll beat me up or something like that. And obviously, so we just are able to have a lot of fun together and we clicked right away. So he's definitely, obviously I'm pretty close to him and it's a lot of fun to be around him.
Yeah, I did see somebody put out the Step Brothers meme too, with you and him in that. Did you? I'm sure you would have seen that.
Yeah, that was his junior team in Peterborough. They kind of threw that out there, so that was pretty funny.
That's pretty good. So, I mean, there's talk that this guy's going to be part of Canada's Olympic team. I'm wondering, if you think that that is a good move for him. I mean, I suspect that, this guy's a pro, right? He's a pro. He's played pro. He acts like a pro. He carries himself like a pro. He looks like a pro. So, you know what I mean? Like he's a guy that I think would transition to despite the fact that he's so young, would transition into something like that, like the Olympic team, and really be able to play, a good role for them. I'm wondering what you think. Yeah,
I'm sure he'd do great. I mean, he's 18, but like I said before, he looks like a 15-year veteran, and he's probably one of the strongest guys I've ever been around. So I think if once you play in the NHL, and for him, he did really well in the NHL. You watch him and he's not just out there; he's making plays and he's being dangerous. So I think then you always feel confident in going anywhere and playing. So I'm sure if he does make the team, which I've saw some stuff about him being on that team, it would definitely. Yeah. I think he'd help them, and for him that'd be a pretty special moment.
Dylan and I were talking before in the podcast also about it wouldn't be that outrageous for them to want to have you on that team. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I doubt it will. I wish it would, but have you ever thought of maybe it might be nice to be on their radar a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I was, like you said, I don't think that's going to happen. There's, but I mean, obviously one day you dream of as a kid playing in the Olympics and all that. So that would obviously be pretty special, but, I can't really see that happening yet, but, hopefully one day in my career, I can, compete for Canada in the Olympics.
Well, and I was talking to Dylan about this. In 2026, you'll be 20 years old. You'll be in the middle of your third season in the NHL. And basically what I was saying was there's nothing that you've done in your career that would suggest that you would not be ready to play at that level that early in your career. Do you look at 2026 and say, that's a goal for me? That's a goal for me to be on that team?
I mean, obviously now that you kind of say it, that's obviously, you can't really think of it yet. Obviously being 4 years away. So
yeah.
But I mean, like I said before, it's kind of just, being able to have the chance, even just World Juniors and like I said, growing up watching, they're playing U18s. It's just, always competing for your country is special. And the Olympics is, obviously the biggest stage. So that'd be pretty surreal and a very cool moment for me.
Yeah. Connor, I want to talk a little bit about this season with the Regina Pats. It's been a bit of an up and down season. I think you would acknowledge, both for your team and for you personally. And everybody was like, okay, what's going on with Connor McDavid? He's not leading the league in scoring. Or Connor Bedard, sorry. Yeah. Well, Dylan well, that's a mistake a lot of people are going to make. Trust me. What's wrong with Connor Bedard? He's not leading the league in scoring, but, I looked, you were leading the league in shots. I talked to your dad and to some scouts who said, there were games where you had no points where they were your best games of the year. And, like for a guy who's a veteran in the NHL and has played a lot of years and has a lot of experience, being successful, I'm sure a guy like that could say, yeah, I'm getting my chances and things are going to work out. But a 16-year-old kid, it's a little different. How did you handle that sort of lack of sort of tangible success and sort of keep playing through it, even though you probably knew you were playing pretty good hockey all the way through?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously going into the year, I didn't expect that start points wise. I honestly thought I felt better than the year before. I felt like I was, controlling the game better than I was the year before. But the year before everything was kind of going in, and
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of points. So it's definitely frustrating in the moment, and I think in the long run it could be a good thing. Kind of learning how to deal with adversity because if I do play in the NHL one day, I'm not going to be able to have 2 points per game as a rookie or something like that. So it's just kind of, I think learning and kind of just sticking with it. I thought I was playing well, and lately the puck's been seem to be going in a little more. So hopefully I can kind of, get hot.
Yeah, I mean, before you left, I think you had two hat tricks before you left. Is that right? Or 2 3-point games before you left for the World
3-point
Juniors?
games,
Yeah, 2 3-point games. And you were picking it up because I could see sort of the game by game. And then you have the 4 against Austria and the 4 in the first game back, including the overtime winner. And I'm wondering, I got to think that the whole World Junior experience, when you got back to playing in the Western League, it's like, yeah, I feel super confident right now.
Yeah, I think, like before, you kind of maybe second guessing making a move or something like that. Maybe you don't want to shoot the puck when you have a chance because you're scared it might not go in. So obviously to get a few big games before I left for camp for World Juniors was good for me. And then obviously having a big game against Austria was nice. And I think your confidence kind of just picks up whether you know it or not, and you're making more plays and you're trying more things. So I think just kind of getting back to my game and playing my game is going to be good.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, it's a long road here, and there's so many uncertainties, but, what do you expect from the rest of this year, both personally and from a team standpoint? Because you guys have some ground to make up, and I mean, I think I would say you're probably, capable of doing some pretty special things between now and the end of the season. Where do you see everything going?
I think the whole goal is to get back in the playoffs for us. I think we're kind of just getting healthy. We haven't really had a full roster yet this year, and to kind of have that back is going to be good. And for me, obviously, just hopefully can continue playing well and kind of finish the year off strong. But the whole goal for us is to get in the playoffs, and I think once you're in the playoffs, you've seen so many upsets and that sort of thing. So anything can happen, but if we can get back there, that would be kind of the goal from the start of the year as well.
And I think they're one and the same though. Like if Connor Bedard is scoring 3 points a game, the chances that the Regina Pats will be in the playoffs is a lot better. So I got to think from a personal standpoint, you're like, yeah, I want to keep this going.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the start of the year we kind of had like a 7-game losing streak, and I had maybe 1 or 2 goals in that span. So I kind of put that on myself a lot of the time. Being my job is to create and to get points and that sort of thing. So obviously I want to help the team win in any way, and obviously if that's getting points, and that's what I'm going to try to do. Obviously it's easier said than done, but hopefully I can kind of do that.
Well, it is easier said than done, and still the most difficult thing in hockey is to score, and you do that with a lot of regularity. So it's nice to watch. Just one last one here. I'm just wondering, have you heard from Wayne Gretzky at all after the 4-goal game in the World Juniors? Like, did he reach out to you? Did you talk to him? Did you text or anything like that?
No, I haven't heard from him. Obviously, I think about him giving me a call after exceptional status, but no, I haven't heard from him since the World Juniors.
Well, I'm sure that there'll be some times where you'll do some things that will prompt a call from Mr. Gretzky. So, yeah. Well, listen, Connor. Thank you for coming on our little podcast here. It's our third podcast, and you're our first guest. So, I thank you for that. I certainly know that you've got a lot of commitments, and a lot of people want a piece of you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to make time for us. And that's I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Well, all the best of luck the rest of the way, and keep it going.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that interview was, I'd say, a ton of fun. Ken, what stood out at you in that interview?
Well, I've been talking to this kid since he was 13, and he's the same now as he was when he was 13. he reminds me of Swedish hockey players.
Oh, I see that.
Like, he reminds me of a guy from Sweden.
Yeah.
Totally not impressed with himself. Like,
Very matter-of-factly.
Not the least bit impressed with himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't think he's any better than anybody else. Doesn't think he deserves anything.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, well, whatever. I'll try my best. And if I'm in the, like, did you hear him say, if I play in the NHL?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not breaking any news here. This kid's going to play in the NHL.
Not letting any huge cats out of the bag.
It's so funny. It's so funny because I was at a Leafs skate the day they named the selection camp roster.
Yeah.
And he was on it, obviously. And one of the reporters there was like, oh, yeah, well, they'll take him to camp and they'll say, okay, Connor, you're just here to sort of see and learn and you're not going to be on the team, but, you're just going to absorb all of this selection camp. And I'm like, no chance.
Yeah.
I when I saw his name on that list, I said, he's on the team. He's going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Because I knew.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this, and I hate to keep beating this dead horse, but this kid has an uncanny ability to be able to look at the situation and to be able to figure out what he needs to do to be the best and then go out and do it.
Yeah.
Like he gave Canada no choice. He gave Dave Cameron no choice but to take him on that team.
Yeah.
And like Dave Cameron would have looked like the village idiot if you had cut him on that team.
Yeah.
You know? And so then he starts as the extra forward. Then he goes to the fourth line. He makes it impossible for you not to move him up the lineup.
Yeah.
And that's part of my whole thing with the Olympics. I think he should be there. I really do. And I'm not saying that because I want it to be a hot take or whatever. I really think they should take him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I had this discussion, we'll call it. It was an argument with a junior coach here in the city who, it was kind of this classic, the old ways, the good ways kind of thing. And I think that, the players today couldn't play like, the players before if they had the same technology and work and exercise science that they have today.
Yeah.
And my argument to that was the players, the elite players today are such freaks in the sense that they not only have the innate ability, but they also have the work ethic and they also have the brains and they also have the NHL. There are not very many true plugs in the NHL today. Did you see the move Ryan Reeves did stripping? Was it McDavid?
Yeah.
Of the puck the other day?
Yeah, he made Connor McDavid look pretty ordinary on that play.
I watched it 3 times and I thought if that was a penalty, it would have been a chintzy penalty.
Yeah. Well, the worst player in the NHL is amazing.
Yeah.
The absolute, and the worst player in the American League is really good too.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how good you have to be.
Oh, big time.
I don't think people realize it because you see it when you play beer league with a guy who used to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
I used to play pickup hockey when I was working at the Hockey News with a guy by the name of Paul Marshall.
Okay.
And he was a defenseman. He actually played in Pittsburgh for a while.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a career. And then he'd come out and play with us. I don't even remember how he ended up with our group of guys, but he'd come out and play with us, right?
Yeah.
And you'd go, wow, I don't know. I don't see anything special here. But then once or twice,
he'd say, hey, you know what I can do?
He'd do something and he'd go, yep, okay, there it is, it is, right there, yeah. And then you go, he's not trying. He's not trying. He's playing with a bunch of plugs.
Yeah.
A bunch of bums.
Yeah.
And he's just out here screwing around with us.
Yeah.
And then when he decides he wants to do something like spin off somebody or something, he does it. And then you go, oh, yeah, there it is. Yep.
I did a skate with a guy who made it to the NHL, but he was an NHL, AHL, kind of an in-betweener.
Yeah.
Right? He had the skills. He just wasn't good defensively, and so he could never really stick on a team. He wasn't skilled enough to be a top-line guy. One of those real tweeners, right? Anyways, it was his his junior team, his major junior team
Right.
was there. And so it's all the guys that are about 3 years removed from playing major junior, and him who's playing.
You should probably tell people that you're like a goalie, right?
I am a goalie.
You're like a rent-a goalie, like from the show Rent-a Goalie. You're like one of those guys. So let's make sure people know that.
I'm on the list for rent a goalies, but only if I see a skate that looks interesting do I actually take it.
Okay.
Right. Anyways, so this guy shows up, and at the end of it, for a lark, they said him against, everybody's kind of filtering out, right? Because we were just allowed to stay on the ice forever. It was him against 5 guys, and nobody could get the puck off of him. And we're talking about major junior players that are like 3 years removed.
Yeah.
These are not schlubs.
Right.
These are excellent hockey players.
Yeah.
But there's so much of a step that this guy, who was not even a full-time NHLer, was so fast and so good and so strong that nobody could strip the puck off of him.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Try as they might.
Yeah.
But my point going back is just with the confluence of things that needs to happen in order for somebody to be the best at this time, both with the work ethic, the nutrition you talked about, all the rest of it. Bedard's got it.
Well, yeah, but I think you're leaving out one very, very important component.
Innate.
No, well, innate is one, no question about it. I'm not a 10,000 hours guy. I think the 10,000 hour rule is bullshit.
I'm not a Malcolm Gladwell guy at all.
I am in some ways, but in terms of the 10,000 hours, I think it's complete crap.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it, first of all, in hockey.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to be on the ice doing it 2 hours a day every day
broken
between the time you're 8 till you're 17.
Yeah.
So I'm not a 10,000 hours guy. I really do think that there is an innate talent, like natural talent has to count for something.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Gladwell used like the Beatles, when they were in Germany, they played for 18 hours a day and they got better and everything. Well, yeah, but there were lots of other bands doing that too, and they never ended up being
the Beatles.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's innate, and the second thing is the desire, the desire, the determination, the willingness to sacrifice. I mean, this is a kid who I've been told, would go to a tournament. He's from Vancouver. One time they went to a tournament in Toronto, flies in, plays a tournament, flies home, gets off the plane, goes straight to the rink, and starts working on things. Like, when a lot of other kids are like, hey, let's just play Xbox or whatever. Yeah. The great ones like the Sidney Crosbys, when there's a snow day at school, they're not at home. They're down at the local rink playing shinny all day. Yeah. And so he's got that. Mm-hmm. And he's got that to go with every other gift and every other advantage he's got. Yeah. There are advantages too. Connor McDavid's father, Connor Bedard's father owns his own company. And until recently, he would go up into the BC interior and fell these these enormous trees. Right. So he has his own company. He does that. He probably does pretty well. His mother hosts international students at their house. So, fairly middle class, not hurting by any stretch of the imagination, but, not a real rich family. Yeah. But there's sacrifices that they probably would have had to make financially to allow him to be able to play with the players that he did in the situations that he did at North Van Academy, which is, I'm sure that there would have been, North Van Academy would have been like, yes, we want you, Connor Bedard. So we are willing to, maybe shave some money off the costs.
Yeah, the $40,000 a year cost. Is now
I think it was like 15. But anyways, but he's had a lot of opportunity, and he's taken advantage of them. Yeah. I was out at the Leaf practice yesterday, and afterwards I was kind of just walking around to the rinks because everything's shut down in Toronto today. All the kids, they can't play. And I saw two dads out there with 5 kids. Yeah. And they were all girls, and they could all really skate. Yeah. But I thought, what an advantage that is. Yeah. These 2 dads, maybe it was a team practice and nobody showed up. Or maybe it was two dads who said, we want to get some extra ice time for our kids. So we're going to rent an hour at the MasterCard Center in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And that's a huge advantage.
Charge it.
That a lot of the, I wonder if they take hammocks there. That's a huge advantage that a lot of these kids have
big time.
over other kids. So, but it's not that. It's because he wants it. He's willing to work for it. And he has an innate ability to be able to do it. And he had a backyard rink. He had a roller rink in his backyard. I think his dad built like one of those synthetic roller rinks back there. Yeah. So, he shoots like a man.
Yeah.
He shoots like an NHL player.
Big time.
So, and he was shooting like that when he was 14.
Yeah.
So he's shot thousands and thousands and thousands of pucks.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
It's the perfect storm. It's a perfect confluence of the right kid, the right atmosphere around him, and just his incredible work ethic and innate abilities.
And what you like about it is he's a great kid. That screamed. For those that didn't see it, well, nobody saw it because I'm not going to release that footage. We had a bunch of technical difficulties. And he just sat there and went, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. He sat there and got ribbed for having Mason McTavish on his Zoom call. He sat there and got ribbed for that, despite the fact that we were unable to sort out ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, can I mention that? And he says, I don't care.
Great.
Like, he's a great kid. He's obviously been raised very, very well and been surrounded by good people. And I really put him on par in that respect with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Just a really level. And that goes a long way because you never get too full of yourself. You never take things for granted. You continue. Sidney Crosby, I remember in the 2017 Stanley Cup final, it was an off day and Sidney Crosby's out there taking face-offs.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing, taking face-offs.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was. It was like their third or fourth line center. It was like, he was like, I don't really want to be here, but Sid's making me come because
Benino was their third line center that year.
I think it might have been him. And he's like, I don't really want to be here, but Sid says I have to come because he's got to have someone to take faceoffs against.
Yeah.
And this is in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. And he's afraid of Malkin.
Best player in the world. Yeah. Best player in the world.
Yeah.
On an optional, just going out there and taking faceoffs. Yeah. That's what the great ones do.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's of the enormous number of markers that he has for greatness.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Absolutely. So before Ken and I get out of here, check out Ken's writing, kencampbell.substack.com. You can check out my Habs podcast if you're a Habs fan at Habsitition. And please subscribe and review. That keeps our numbers up and helps other people find this podcast and makes it easier for us to find other incredible guests like we just had. Ken, thanks so much for being around.
Well, that's what I'm supposed to do. It's my podcast. I don't really have a choice, do I?
Well, yeah, it's your podcast. Yeah.
I kind of have to show up.
Yeah.
I should thank you for being around. Thanks for doing every bit of the legwork, including building this stuff and everything. I just show up and spew, bull crap for an hour and we're good to go. So, yeah. Thank you, Dylan. No, thank you.
And with that,
and I'm pointing at Dylan because we are sufficiently
we're quite a ways from each other.
We're
here.
like 10 feet apart, 12 feet apart. So.
Yeah, we're quite a ways here.
Anyways, yeah, let's if you like what you heard, let us know. If you don't like what you heard, let us know.
You don't have to if you didn't like it. You don't have to. Yeah. Those are the kinds of opinions you're welcome to keep to yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. We're a notoriously thin-skinned group here.
We are.
Yes.
Yeah.